Here we go, guys. All right. Trying to get this one all the way in. This is a big design. This one's not too shiny, so you can see that pretty good. All right. Okay. All right, just going to finish getting myself together. It's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. Let's see. Hey, Alyssa. Okay, I got it. Never mind. All right, let's see what we got now. Hey, we got everybody gathered. I'm the one running late today. Sorry about that, you guys. Oh, by a minute. I'll go a little bit easier on myself. So who's here? Say hi to me. Woot, woot. Okay. So this is the plate we're doing today. What you'll notice is it's kind of an interesting setup for me. Woo, I'll twirl it around on my little twirly thing. This is I call this Pennsylvania Dutch. This is a pretty fun design. We're going to build it together from the inside out, so to speak. And just as a reminder for those of you who are new to us, you've got a wet paper towel to start with. You've got that a little damp. You've got your glazes open. And you have your dotting tool, okay, which you'll notice has numbers from 1 on the small prong all the way around to number 8. And I'm going to refer to them by their number, so you shouldn't have any problems using that. And we're going to have a few different, I'm going to take this off. Now, one of the things that's cool about today is that you guys have a plate, right? And that's what I did this design on originally. And then because this is such a full design and everybody loved that round platter that we did last week, I thought, well, why don't I put this design on a round platter? And so you can sort of see this. I'm going to see if I can play with the light here and try to get it a little bit better for you. Give me a minute. I got some weird lighting today. There we go. That'll jump out at you. Ooh. Give it a minute. Let's see. Hold up. Come a little bit more this way. See what that does. I'm really the worst at this, at centering things. Okay, that did nothing, Jacqueline. I think you need to come back this way. Oh, I guess I could see it right here. So that's pretty cool. So when I do this, I'm going to start it like this. And what I wanted to show you first before we get started is some of the different techniques we're going to be using. So as you've heard me say before, if you've done this with me before, different glazes have a different viscosity or thickness, right? So even though you might be using the same tip, they might dip differently. So I think it's a good idea if you're new to this to kind of test them out. So if I just choose tip number 4 and put it in the yellow and make a dot, that's what it'll look like. I'm going to use my paper towel to take it off and then do it in my colors. Okay, so those two are pretty similar for what it's worth. Just doing all the colors that we're doing. This one's just a little bit more fluid. Ah, this one's much tighter, the red. That's something to keep in mind. The blue and the teal, which is much looser. So those are the colors we'll be using. And then the other, so that's called dip and dot. It's brilliant, I know. So where you're simply dipping the glaze right in there, dipping it and then making one dot. Then if we were doing it again, you dip again. The other technique, which I call dot, 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 is where you start with one dip, and I'm going to use that teal again, and you put that on there, but then you keep going, okay, with the same tool. You don't re-dip it. And what that does, as you can see, is it creates a successively smaller dot each time. So one way I use that, I'm going to go ahead and just for the fun of it, I'm going to make one big dot with my largest tip right over here in the middle of nowhere. So you can see that. Because one of the things that we do is we go around this dot. So I'm going to then go with tip number 1, let's just say. I'm going to use tip number 3 to make a point. And I'm always going to say start on your furthest point. So we're going to start out here and I'm going to come around the side. And when you do that, as you can see, the dots get smaller. Now, I'm going to have to dip again in order to come around this side. But if I dip the same number 3 tip, then my first dot is going to be this big. And I don't want it this big. I want it this big. So you can do one of two things. Either dip lightly or switch from number 3 to number 2. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to dip number 2. And then I'm going to come around this side. And I'm going to show you, I had 3 dots in between, so I just put 3 dots over here. So that's what the dot, dot, dot will do. It will give you this like antenna look over here, or the around look over here. Another thing you'll see in this technique is, in this platter, another technique is a crown. I'm just going to pick a different color for the crown, which is a similar idea. We start here, but I don't go all the way around. I just might do... And you couldn't see it, but I also went one size smaller. If you do the second side and the dot isn't as large as over here, just hold the tip down a little longer and let more glaze flow off of it onto your plate. So that's that. And we also have a number of different kinds of drags on this plate. We've done drags before, but this one has a bunch of different kinds. So I'll talk about them as we do it. I just want to give you the basics. I'm going to use tip number 5 in my sample. And you'll notice I'm turning my plate. And the reason I turn my plate is because I'm left-handed, and therefore I dot better on the left side. If you're right-handed, you're naturally going to dot better on the right side. So rather than using my left hand to try to dot on the right and risk messing something up, I just turn the plate. And that's why you have the paper towel, so that you can pick up a paper placemat. So you can pick up the paper placemat and turn your plate with that rather than touching the plate over and over. Plates don't like oils. Glaze doesn't like oil, so if your hands are not pristine, you could be introducing oils into your glaze, which will make the glaze pull away. So I was just going to show you when I'm going to do a drag, I'm going to put it down and let it drip, and then it's hard for you to see this, so you'll have to listen to my words. I am not really even pressing it onto the surface. I'm holding it above and then just pulling it and letting the glaze follow, so I get this kind of a comma or apostrophe look. So I let it drip, lift my tip, and let it go. So I feel like this is a good one to demonstrate with. I'll come back and clean that one up a little bit for you. All right, so that's really what that technique is going to be that we're going to use. So I think maybe we should get started, all right? Sorry, I put my little messy towel, get this out of here so I don't make a mess of it. And we're going to start like we basically always do with our dot in the middle. So we're going to use our largest tip, which is the number 8. All right, and we're going to use that first color A, which is that dark teal, and you're going to put that right on your center dot and let it drip so it can get nice and thick, nice and fat, but wide, whatever words we want to use for that. Now, I'm actually coming back and redotting, and the reason is I actually want to take up some of the extra glaze. I don't want it to be too domed because I don't want it to crack in the kiln. If there's too much glaze, it can crack. Cracking makes me sad. I don't like to be sad. Ergo, I'm taking it off. Okay? That's it. That's the first move. Once you've put that on your tray, we are good to go, and you don't have to, let me see what we got. You don't have to worry about it or go back to it. So we're going to stick with the same color. We're going to switch now to tip number 3. And what I'm doing on this one is, actually, I'm looking at this. It's different on the plate than on here. So we're going to actually use tip number 2 for safety. I don't want this to bleed together. And you're just going to put a dot on the edge of each line all the way around. Okay, so yeah, tip number 2, much better than tip number 3. I love it when I change my mind. You guys probably hate it when I change my mind, but I change my mind sometimes, even though I've done this plate already, this design probably 4 or 5 times, and I've got written out notes and everything. Sometimes I look at it and I just say, nah, that's not what I really want. And also sometimes I look at it more through your eyes when I'm actually teaching it to you, even though, sorry to say that when I'm doing this at home and prepping my notes, I am usually talking out loud and pretending you're here with me, so I'm sorry I felt the need to share that with you, but it's true. Okay. So now that we've got that pulled together, I'm going to let you guys finish it up. We're going to switch out. We're going to stick with the same color, okay? And we're going to do another row. What you're going to do is tip 5 above, here's importantness, every other one. But the key here is, yeah, nothing. Don't go too close because you don't want them to kiss or get too, okay, so I'm just going to put, oh, that was a tip 8. I can see it's the wrong tip. I'm surprised they let me out sometimes. So tip 5 right here, okay? Skip 1. And sometimes you have to say that out loud to yourself, trust me, so that you don't accidentally do every one. So every other one, dot, skip, dot, skip, dot, skip, dot. Okay, now you'll notice that my dots are not necessarily the roundest thing. Don't worry about that. When they come out of the kiln, they just naturally round. These markings are etched a little bit, and that can cause the glaze when it's wet to be a little wonky, but it naturally rounds once it heats up in the kiln. It's amazing what 1828 degrees can do to a dot. We're gonna then just switch to tip number 2 and put a dot in between, okay? So we're just gonna go in between. This is pretty easy to follow because, you know, you've only got in between spots left. So in between we go. One of the things that's good practice is to try to remember to hold your tool vertically up and down so that you kind of get nice round dots. All right, so that's what you've got. That's your starter. We're actually, gonna switch to another color. And here's what we're gonna do. This is, for those of you who have done a lot of these, we're gonna just do this one a tiny bit different. Hey there, welcome. We're going to use tip number 1, but we're gonna use color B, which is kind of that lighter blue. It's kind of a brighter blue. I don't know what to call it. It's a beautiful blue. It's one of my new favorite colors. And we're going to do a triangle, but a different kind of a triangle than what we usually do. And what I wanna say is, I want you to use a light touch on this. So we're using tip number 1, and we're gonna put a dot on each side of the line above the bigger, what I call the size 5 dot, and then put one up here on the line. So that's how we're making literally a full triangle. Can you see? I'm gonna use my pointer thing. So you can see how that forms a triangle, right? Not just in my head. So remember, this is every other one. You're only doing this above the big dots. We're gonna make a triangle. It doesn't matter if your top dot's a little smaller. So what you don't want is for your dots to run together. So make your side dots far enough, which isn't very far, on each side of that line so they don't risk touching. Okay, we're practicing good social distancing here. Oh my gosh, I'm making a social distancing joke. Okay. So we're gonna do that above each of the large dots. What's your question? One question already? Yep, so this is, you're right, this is size, tip number 1 with color B, the lightish, medium, whatever. It's the only other real blue. And you're doing 1 dot on each side of the line above the big teal dot and 1 on the line to form a triangle. This is kind of a cool piece of this design. What I like about it is it creates some air, creates some nice space. Good place for the eye to rest. So that's our first step on our way to forming something looking like a flower. All right, any other questions? Nope, very good. All right, so we're gonna stick with tip number 1, but what we're going to do now is go back to that first color A, the teal, and we're going to make a teardrop around there. I'm just gonna do it empty to start with. We're gonna use tip 1, sorry, which is great. And then we're gonna just make kind of like, I don't know if a teardrop isn't really the right word. It's more like an upside down U. So we're gonna start here, we're gonna come down to this size 2 teal dot. So I'm gonna okay? So we're gonna start with number 1 and go in the middle. And then we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how many I have. You may have more or fewer. Now I'm gonna twirl mine because you saw that was on the left for me and I wanna do it on the left. I'm gonna dip lightly because I don't want too much paint. And I'm just going to do, it was a little too lightly, so I'm coming back for a little more. 1, 2, so from here to here, I have 1, 2, 3, 5 dots in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? It's okay if your dots start to disappear. You don't necessarily want them to be completely invisible, but it's fine if they start to fade. It kind of gives it a cool look. So when I do that again on this one, dot up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then over here, my point is, and I do have one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They kind of meet there in the middle and they form that kind of petal look. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So after I did my first dot at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on this one, to be honest, I only had room for 4 because my dots are a little bigger. The beauty of doing this is it really won't matter. So don't stress on that. Sometimes that'll happen. Yes, I know, you can hear probably that I have an advantage being here in the studio, which is that I have a turntable that I can use. But I've done plenty of these at home. I just use the same paper placemat technique that I give to you. And just pick it up and turn it. 2, 3, 4, 5. If you need to fit in a dot, it's better to leave a dot out than risk it running into another dot. Not that we can't fix it. I'll show you how to do that at the end. But at least for right now, hey, Janet. At least for right now, if you need to fit in a dot, what you can do is you can control it by how hard you press. So if you need a tiny little dot, just lightly dot it, okay? Now on this one, you can see it was so light that I didn't have any glaze on it. So I can grab a tiny bit of glaze and just lightly touch it down. That's the safest way. So you don't always have to press the same amount. On my last dot, I almost always just barely touch it. Okay, I'd rather it be too light than too heavy, because too heavy means a mess. It's not like I'm not capable of a mess. I'm incredibly capable, but I try not to. So this is my last one. I'm sure you still have a few more to go. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if ever you have a situation where you start out and you realize, ruh-roh, my dots are heavy, this is, then just ease up on the pressure that you're placing on it. Just hold it much more lightly, maybe a little bit further away. All right, so that's what your first row of petals is going to look like. That's looking pretty good. So we're gonna do the same thing again, except we're gonna go up to tip number 2. All right, so I'm gonna use tip number 2, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. The idea is on this one, 1, 2, oops. I'm gonna go as far as the line. I'm going to show you this in the other direction. I'm going to do this one next. 1, 2, 3, 4. if your tip runs dry, just go down and use the next tip down. Okay, so they're sharing that bottom dot. I don't know another way to say that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't have to be right on the line. It can just be in the neighborhood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to share that bottom dot. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. So on this one, I did not like that this dot was bigger than this one, so I'm just going back and adding a little bit more to my top dot. Three. They come right into each other. They make a nice, smooth connector. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? I explained it well? It's always a bit of a gamble with me. No, you guys write me such nice notes. I appreciate it. I always think about how I'm going to explain things to you. Aren't you glad I'm not counting out loud anymore? I'm trying not to annoy you. It's one of my new resolutions. I got to tell you guys, it has been so fun this week having people back in the studio. You know, as you well know, we've been here kind of the whole time doing to-go kits, and which was fine. And to be honest, I think I kind of had some fun, you know, didn't really get to just putting things together, coming up with ideas that you can do at home, etc. But I didn't realize how much I missed you here in the studio until this week when people are coming in to paint. As you know, so Monday, here's a bit of news. This coming Monday, yes, which is I'm going to go 22nd. It's from 5 to 7. We're going to do another Facebook Live, but it's going to be, it's a grand reopening party online. So I'm going to give you a tour of the studio and show you all the new things we brought in and how we've rearranged things and why, and some of the new pottery and the glass and so on. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you some cool projects / techniques we've been working on. And we're going to do some sales, and we're going to have prizes. I can't serve you snacks, unfortunately. I haven't figured out how to make Facebook Live do that yet. But we are going to have a little socially distanced grand opening on Monday. It'll be advertised on Facebook this week, so I hope you'll find some time to join us and tell me what you think of the studio. All right, so you've got your second pedal, second round, and on the last one we're going to put on this is going to be tip 3, not surprisingly. But we're going to switch over to the second color again, color B, the lighter blue. Janet, that's a great idea to use an old Lazy Susan. I didn't think of that. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing just with the lighter color, and you're going to notice that tip 3 is a substantially bigger dot. I want you to kind of go with that because this one is going to be like the end of this. So it's okay if it really stands out a lot. And also, to be honest, it's a lighter color than the teal, so it will never overwhelm the teal. It can't. I'll even show it to you. 3, 4. So I'm going to just bring the other plate, and you'll see that. Where's my pointer? Whoops. Let's see. Can you see that? Let me stand up so I can look in my camera in real time. So yeah, you can see up here that it just really complements the inside color. It kind of caps it. You have this on the inside, then the teal, and then the blue. So having it be a bigger dot really helps the design, I think. All right, so I'm going to keep doing that. I think you have the hang of this, unless you're asking me a question. I keep checking, and I haven't seen anything related to this, so I'm assuming you're getting the hang of it. So big dot and work our way down. 3, 4, 5. Okay, and again, when you want to do the dots on the second side, you can just go down a size, if you will, on your dotting tool. All right. I think this is the move that kind of got me personally hooked on this, was just doing this kind of this dotting over and over again. Just how relaxing it can be. Kind of excited. We're getting started, you know, with our in-person workshops. On Saturday, I'm going to be in Oneonta at Teresa's Emporium. Teresa's got that all set up for social distancing, so the tables are spread out, and we just have family groups together at a table. So it's a small group, but you know what? That's how it's going to have to be for a while. I know everybody's tired of it. I mean, I can't stand masks, but it doesn't mean I don't think they're important. I just don't like them. I feel the same way about salad sometimes, so whatever, you do what you got to do. So, but anyway, we'll be there. We're going to be doing the Colonial Burst, which I think is the first one I started in this series. I started this series with. So there you go. I'm just babbling on. That's our center part of our flower. I'm going to let you guys finish that up for a second. All right. Thanks for the thumbs up. So I know you're all set. You're going to lock the door on your way, right? Okay, because last week they left it open. Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, it's no big deal at all. All right, so now we're going to do something, I keep saying this, a little bit different. We're going to do what I call a sideways diamond above the teardrops we just did. So what I mean by that is we're going to use tip 4, and we're going to use our next color C, which is the dark red. And we're going to do a diamond that's going to be wider than it is tall. So it's not hard to do. I'm just like to explain it really thoroughly. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot here. And again, the most important thing about dots is that they don't touch other dots. So it's just putting 2 dots on the line, and then 1 out here, and 1 out here. Sometimes I can do what you saw me just do now, which is to manage to get more than 1 dot on a dip. And sometimes I just love to live dangerously, and sometimes I remind myself that they come out a lot better if I redip. So, you know, it's your call. Stay on the line. 1 dot, a little bit, you know, 1/4 of an inch above it, and then 1 on each side a little bit wider. Okay, just above that teardrop you just created. So we're using tip number 4, and we're using color C, which is that darker red color. Any questions? Nope. Okay, cool. So dot. So funny sitting here, you know, like kind of talking to you guys. I want to start telling you about all the cool stuff we're doing, but I don't want to ruin Monday's party or big reveal. I know, I'm like, can't even keep my own secrets. Although I'm pretty good at I'm better at keeping other people's than I am my own. I think that's pretty funny. Never thought about it that way. But anyway, I hope you'll stop in, metaphorically speaking, because it's going to be really cool. All right, so that's what we've got for our sideways diamonds, as I call it. Now, while that's kind of setting up, we're going to scooch over to the space in between those, and we're going to use tip number 3 and go back to color A, and we're gonna do drags. So what we're gonna do with those drags, all right, is we're going to start at the top and drag down, and we start with the middle drag, and that's kind of a straight drag. And in terms of the height of them, I'm gonna start, I'm gonna point, use my pointer. I'm gonna start about somewhat, so what do I want? Equal in height to about the side dot above the diamond. It doesn't have to be exact. Really nothing bad happens, so no stress. I just want to pick a spot and keep it. Part of the reason I want to start there is because it's going to be somewhat of a long drag, and I don't want to run out of paint. And then after I do this one in the middle that's straight, I kind of start a little bit to the side, drop it, and then curve it in. And I come on over here, start to the side, drop it, and turn it, curve it in. If you do what I just did and you don't get a full length, I'm just going to go back to I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to just use my tip number 1 and barely touch it, and certainly not even touch the surface. They do not have to be exact. They will melt. I look at the picture that I gave you and I'm kind of laughing. It's like, wow, they kind of look all the same. And let me just tell you, they are so not all the same. So don't stress about that. So basically, you're going to start at your sideways diamond spot. All right, give it a lot of paint and then just pull it down. Start to a side and curve, and then start to the other side and curve. Let me see if anybody has any questions about that. Yes, you can, if you want to. You could do all your center ones first and go all the way around and come back. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Start over here and come down. I really don't, I think the key thing to remind you is I don't really press very hard on this. You can see I'm kind of dripping the paint, and then I kind of pick my tip up and pull it down. Even here, I'm just letting it drip, and then it's hardly even touching the surface of the plate. Off to the side and down. All right. I want to thank those of you who have sent me pictures, and feel free to do this if you haven't. I'd love to see pictures of what you're doing with the plates that you've made, if you've made a display or you're using them for serving or what have you. I know I kind of change mine out because sometimes my actual plates become my samples, so I have to be willing to give them back to the studio. But I have a really sweet plate hanger that I kind of put them up on a couple of walls, and it's really makes me happy. Sometimes I switch them out when I have new favorites, I admit it. All right, so we've got this done. I'm going to show you now, the next step is super easy. We're going to be doing that crown, but here's the thing. I've done this differently on 2 of the different plates that I've done. The one I think that you have a picture of shows that I'm using 2 slightly different colors. I'm using C and D on every other one. You don't have to do it that way, but I'm just kind of giving you a heads up that that's what I'm going to show you. If you decide you want to do one color on all of them, that's perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use tip number 1, and I'm going to use the C color, and I'm going to put a crown over that sideways diamond. And it's just going to kind of hang in the air, and this is what I mean. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I don't know if I want to do more than that, so let me just decide in a second. get much smaller than that, Jack. 1, 2. Yeah, I'm just going to do 3 on each side. So it's just a little crown. Now the key thing for me, I'm actually cleaning it and going to color number D to do the next one, because here's the point. I know me, and it's very easy for me to make a mistake. So if you want them to be and I wanted to show you what it looks like, okay? So that's what every other color looks like. So since I've done this and messed it up before, my advice is to actually switch back and forth. So now I'm doing color C. Whoops, can't see. On this one. Then I'm going to clean my tip and move over to color D. You don't have to do this. Maybe you have a better short-term memory than I do. It's not that hard, but I find it easier and safer, I guess. It's not so much that it's easier, but safer to switch off. So you just want to make a little crown that covers that diamond. So I think that makes sense, right? And if you didn't like it in the 2 different colors, of course, it's perfectly fine to do them all the same. It's a little break from my perfect symmetry. Which I think is kind of healthy. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, look at me, I'm done already. Who knew? Crack myself up. So that's what we've got. We've got every other one. So I'm gonna wait for you guys to finish that up. All right, excellent. So here's another new shape, if you will, that we haven't done. I mean, it's dots are dots, but it's slightly different. We're going to make a diamond above the drags. All right, we're going to use tip 1, and we're going to use the color C. And the way I'm going to make this diamond, or the way I make the diamond, is I'm going to start with a V. So I'm going to put a point down here. And then I'm going to come up 1, 2 on an angle. I'm going to dip back slightly, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side, 1, 2. And then I'm going to start, you can do it either way. You can come in and then make a point up here. That's a diamond. Woo, woo. And then I'm going to do a fresh dip for the middle. All right, so bottom, 1, 2. Little bit of a dip again to make sure I have enough glaze. 1, 2. Third dip. 1, 2. Top. And then dip in the middle. All right, so V. Because I'm doing the right side, then the left side. And I'm finishing the left and the top. And putting this in the middle. Any questions on this? I always think it's clear, I guess. No, sometimes I know it's not. I repeat it. One, 2. All right. And last one. Nope, not true. I do have another one. It's funny how some steps seem like they go by so fast, and other ones are like, why can I not be done yet? All right, that's it. So now I've got all my diamonds done. Done diamonds. So wait for you guys to pull your diamonds together. You know, and it's really funny because all of the diamonds that I do look different to me, but then by the time I'm done finishing the design, I just don't notice it anymore. All right, so we're going to do some teardropping, or those U's, I guess is a better term. I just call it teardrop out of habit. We're going to go around this. Okay, so we're going to start with the same color, which is color C, and tip number 1. So same tip. And we're going to, you know, just start at the top. 1. So that's kind of coming down, and it kind of meets with the crown that we did before. Okay. Oops, that one I didn't want it, a little tiny dot there. Might come back and grab that. There we go. All right, so you're going to do that around each diamond. I have my center dot, and it seems to be about 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just telling you that yours could be longer or shorter depending on the size of your dots and how airy you are. But just gives you an idea maybe of what to expect. One of the things I like to mention is, I don't know, is that sometimes when you've been dipping a lot, you might find that your tool gets kind of some glaze on it. Feel free to clean that off and kind of start fresh. All right, so you don't get a lot of globbiness. It's a technical term. But you might find you get more even dotting if you clean it off every now and then. See, now this one I feel like it went really fast. 1, 2, 4, 5. I don't know why. Okay, so I've got my first surround with number 1 tip and the color number C. And then for my next one, I'm going to go around that with, I'm going to go up to tip 2. I know, it's a shocker. And I'm going to use color number D, which is that lighter color. All right, so I'm going to go around this one. I'm actually going to do 2 rows. I'm going to do one with tip 2 and one with tip 3, but they're both going to be in this color. Remember, if you run out of glaze, you know, you start to put a dot down and nothing shows up, go back, feel free to go back and add that missing dot, if you will, with a smaller tip. How are you guys liking this one? I know this one was certainly very popular, so I hope you're having fun doing it. All right. All right, so I finished my surround there with tip number 2 and color D. So now I'm going to move up to tip number 3 and do the same thing. And remember, I know I've mentioned this before, but tip number 3 gets a lot bigger, which is good because we have more space to fill. But just go slow always on your first one so that you kind of get the look that you're after. Especially as you come to the bottom and you want to make sure you have room for your little dots. All right. No, there's not a lot to say at this part, is there? I'm actually being quiet. Woot, woot. All right, so that takes our 1, 2, 3. And then once we finish that bunch, that teardrop, we have one more to go, but we're gonna go up to tip number 4, and we're going to use color A, B, C, D, E. I filled my palette upside down, so I have to actually count. So same thing, we're just gonna use tip 4, and as you can imagine, those dots will be even a little bit bigger. And so your last dot on this one is going to be just like what we talked about before. It's going to match up and be the last dot for the other side too. So somewhere on or near the line is a good idea if you can still see your lines. Okay, I'm going to check in a second to see if there's any new questions. I feel like we've been working together now for a long enough time that you don't really have a lot of questions, do you? As long as I'm good about telling you the colors and the sequence. You're good to go. All right. This will be my last one on this. All right, so there's our center. Whew. I like it. But I guess you could figure that out. So while you guys are finishing this up, you know what I like to do now is to show you what's coming up next. So I'm pulling over my coasters. We have been very busy prepping coasters this week, so I think that a lot of people like the coasters. I'm going to move this plate out of the way so I don't mess it up, so I can put all 4 coasters out. So here's what you're going to get in the coaster kit. You'll get the 4 coasters, you'll get the coaster holder, and you'll have your choice of square or round. And then I've made a template that fits on here, so I'm going to show you how to mark for designs like this that are marked. And then I'll show you how to freehand for designs like this that are a little more fluid. And I think it's going to be more where I'm going to demo all of these, and then you're going to get to do the ones you want. So when you order your coaster kit, they'll be glazed black. The order form online will tell you what these colors are, and I picked them because they're, you know, just sort of bright and cheery and summery. But if you want a different color set, that's perfectly fine. There's a chart right on the website that shows you what all the colors are, so you can pick your own colors if you wanted to. The way I'll do it is I'll refer to them like I did today with colors A, B, C, D, etc. So you just put them in the order you want and do what you'd like. But you can, you know, the truth is you could do all of yours like this or like this, or you could just do 2 of these, or you know what? You can go off and do whatever you'd like. So this is the coaster set that I'll be showing you next week. I'll be teaching next week. So I hope you'll enjoy that one. I'm excited about this, mostly because A, I like it for the summer. I think it's a fun, useful project. But also, I like them because they make great gifts. And I like that about this. So, all right, so we're just about done with that step. And so now we're going to go into our space in between, and we're going to do some drags. So we're going to go up to tip number 6. We're going to go back to color number C, which is the dark red. All right. And we're going to, the height of the drag is basically going to be the height of, we'll call it the pedal. So I'm going to kind of start up here, let it drip, and just pull it down. Okay? I don't really worry too much about where it ends inside. I care more about how it ends, how it starts up at the top, just so you know. All right, so these are, I'm just going to do the same 3 drag thing in here. Okay. So this is tip number 6 with color number C. It's not a number, I realize. Color C. The same drag approach that we did before, which is the middle one is straight and the side 2 are curved. We're going to be coming back and double dotting a lot of this, so, you know, for right now, it's not the biggest of deals exactly what they look like, because they change their look so much once we do, whoops, some double dotting. All right, so those are our drags in between. And we're going to drag again, but now we're going to drag, sorry. We're going to drag upside down. Hey, Desiree. So we're going to start with tip number 4 and color ABCD. I know, wait, ABCDE, which is the orangey salmon. It's really a salmon color. So tip 4, and that's going to be our center drag, and that's going to go above the teardrop / U things, and we're just going to start at here and drag up. That's the difference. Now I'm just gonna go around and do them all. That to me is the easiest way to do this because the drags on each side are a different color. So I'm just gonna come around and do this drag so I don't have to keep cleaning off my tip. All right, and then I'm gonna use the color A again. Same tip, just with the first color, and I'm just gonna do the side drag. So for these, I'm gonna just curve a little bit and come in. Curve a little bit and come in. Curve a little bit, so it comes in kind of, maybe forms a little bit of a V shape is the best way to describe it. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter too much to start wide and then move toward your center drag, I guess is the best way to describe it. Yep, there we go. Yeah, don't worry about, good, if all the drags like aren't exactly the same length or whatever, it ultimately will not, whoops, be noticeable. That one I just kind of dripped, so I have to just make it work. That happens sometimes. Again though, what I find is once it's done and we're done double dotting and everything, it doesn't really matter too much. Okay, so that's our drags. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to tip number 1. We're gonna go back to above the other drags, the dark red drags that and using tip number 1 and color D, which is the salmon, we're gonna make a little pyramid, okay? So what I do for the pyramid is kind of start with my middle dot and then build around it. So I'm going to put a little dot here, and then I kind of put, maybe the best way to describe it is I'm going to do a triangle to each side, and then I'll kind of come up and then put it point. So it's like a triangle on steroids, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. Because then that middle one kind of becomes a bit of a standout. We're just wanting to fill some space with something a little bit different. They don't have to be evenly spaced. Because they're going to be surrounded. Okay. It's not really a pyramid. I don't know why. In my head it was a pyramid. Wrote it down as a pyramid, but I won't even tell you what it reminds me of now. Okay, it reminds me of a teddy bear. I don't even know why. Maybe because for our summer camp in a bag program, I was making Sculpey teddy bears. And so I have teddy bears on the brain. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun this week. The response has been great. I can't wait for our Zoom classes to start next week with the kids when they're done with school. We've got, I don't know if I've told you, I'm sure I told you. Don't be crazy. So, yeah, you can go on the website if you want and order up any kits you want. Each kit comes with 3 projects in it. They have different themes, so the kids can get stuff. And the 2 main projects each pretty much relate to the theme, like Dinosaur Kingdom or Light Me Up or whatever. And then I put in kind of a surprise 3rd project in each one, so there's a little bit of anticipation. And then the kids can join our Zoom room any day in the next 3 weeks between 9:30 and 11:30 in the morning. And Counselor Emily will be there. Emily's going to be back from having her baby, her beautiful, beautiful little girl. And not that I'm partial. But anyway, she'll be working with the kids. So, you know, if they're working on, let's just say their Sculpey Bear or a fused glass project or whatever, and they're having any problems with it, they're welcome to join in and Emily will help them with it. And, or they can just hang out and chat with her or their friends. So we have a few friend groups that have signed up, so I'm guessing they're gonna join in. The kids don't have to be there for the whole 2 hours. They can pop in and out whenever they want. But the other advantage is I thought if parents, you know, have something to do, they need some time to themselves, we certainly can keep them occupied for a couple of hours. So it's really up to you. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to tip number 3, and we're going to go to color D, and we're going to do a little, I kind of call it a parentheses. It's the upward drag around those dots. So I'm going to start down here, and I'm just going to come around like that. So start over here and come around like that. Okay, does that make sense? I think that's, you know, you guys are probably getting to be like little dragging, I'm gonna make a joke, drag queens now. Okay, that cracks me up. Drag queens and kings. There isn't, I guess, a drag king. I don't really know, but anyway. Just like, to me, it looks like a bit of a parentheses when it's done. All right, so we're going to do that. Okay, it's a pretty quick step, I think. And frankly, we're just going to use the same tip, and we're going to put a dot right at the top above the knot pyramid. I feel like I'm going to call that. It's our knot pyramid. Just a single dot. Same color, same tip. Okay. How can we be almost done? My goodness. Okay. Design builds. Oh, we have double dotting still. Okay, shoo. So now what we're going to do is using tip number 4, and remember the yellow? Color number A, B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D, E, F. Yes, F. Color F. We're going to use tip number 4, and we're going to just put one dot on either side of these dark green, the teal green drags. Basically, what I'm doing is kind of putting it. Here, take a look at your piece, okay? I want it to, I'm going to use my other pointer since I have glaze on this. It should be equidistant between this design and this design. I'm going to make sure that shows up. Since everything I always do it, yeah, I don't think it does it? Oh yeah, it did. So I want it in between those, but it doesn't matter really what height it is. But here's what does matter is whatever height you decide on, try to maintain that all the way around. It doesn't matter if this drag is a little higher than this drag, just try to keep the yellow dots roughly an equal height. So I'm just kind of going to go with this. It's very scientific of me. And I'm actually basing it on its height above. I kind of look at the 2 that I did over here and trying to keep them about the same. Frankly, of all the times I've done this plate, they rarely do all end up the same, and it hasn't yet mattered. When I look at when it's fired, I never remember this. So these are kind of things I only remember when I'm doing it. But it kind of helps with the symmetry. It helps with the planning, I guess, is a better way to say it. So that's what I've got for my single dots. And then I'm just going to jump down 1 to tip number 3, and I'm going to do, you know, the inverted U from above the drags down to that dot. Okay, on either side. So I have 5 dots in between. Just telling you that, so it gives you an idea. And that's kind of what that looks like. Okay? So I'm going to do this one. And remember that trick that I was telling you about where you want to just pull up slightly on the pressure on your last dot so that they get small. So this is just going above the color E drag. Sometimes I think it can be hard to remember that this is an every other one move. So you kind of have to be a little bit alert for that, since it kind of looks like you have the yellow dots after every one. One thing you can do is just kind of make sure you're sort of keeping this a bit rounded so you get the shape that you want. And to do that, you have to go up a little, maybe a little higher on your top dot. Okay. That's our yellow U. U. But wait, there's more. Though I gotta be honest, I'm gonna run out of room on my design. I crack myself up. All right, I'm gonna have to show this to you on my other plate because I went really big on this one. And even though I think the surface of the platter that I'm working on is bigger than the plate, and I actually did another platter and I didn't have this problem. So I think I just was very big today. So I'll have to show that on you. But right now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to jump over to above the parentheses with the dot with color D on it. And we're going to use our tip number 7, one I don't use all that often. And we're going to go back to the first color, color A. We're going to put a vertical diamond above that. So, I mean, that's really, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. Okay? It's just here when you do the sides, you don't want them to be too wide. That's the difference. All right, so you're going to go above this dot. Now, I'm kind of pushing it here because I am not redotting, but if you want all your dots to be the same, redipping, I should say, sorry. If you want all your dots to be the same size, you need to dip and dot each one. Do as I say, not as I do. Or if you don't care, the other option is you just want to always do the same technique each time so that they come out somewhat similar. Okay. All right. The other thing I'm going to do then is with tip 8 and that same color, I'm going to put a dot on either side of that. Just in here. So if you don't have more of this color, you can also do this with the color B. It will also look really cool. I have another one I did where I did it with the color B. I can't commit. Sometimes I like that better, to be honest. But, you know, if you're if you went heavy like I did, it's possible that you could be running out of glaze on this first color because we used it a lot. So you can either do every other one or just use the color B for all of these big dots. Either one will still look fabulous. And the last thing I do on that one is a little antenna. Okay, so I'm going to start with I'm going to use tip 3, and I'm going to use color E. And I'm just going to go dot, dot, dot to the edge. Now, depending on how far you are from the edge, you can add more dots if you want to. You can skip this step if you need to. I think those are the options. Do it as this way, add more or add fewer. Okay, and there aren't any more options other than that. Okay, so that finishes up that ray. Now above the yellow, were you to have room, which I don't really have, so I'm going to have to figure out how to show this to you. I'm going to use the color B and tip number 2, and I'm going to make a little triangle. I do have room for that, so I'll get that started. So I'm going to do left, right, center. Okay? I mean, you can do right, left, center. It doesn't matter, but that's the best way to make a equal looking triangle. I'm making mine pretty tight because I'm trying to get as much onto this plate that I filled as possible before I have to go switch over to showing this to you on one that I've already finished, because I didn't space this one the same way as the other ones I did, which I find humorous. Okay. Oh, that's all of them. So that's my triangle. And then I used tip number 3 and the dark and color C, and I put a little parentheses like the other one around those. All right, do you remember the parentheses? Start at the bottom, come around the side. Okay. There's our parentheses. And then at the top of the parentheses, I made a longer antenna. Now again, this is going to depend on how much room you have. I'm kind of out of space, so I'm actually going to stop on this one. So I'm going to pull the sample that you have over for you to look at on this so that you can see what I'm talking about, since I can't show it to you on my own plate that I'm doing. So we're going to go over onto, so you've done the parentheses here. Use this as a better pointer. Okay. So now we're going to use the color D. And we're going to start with tip number 2. And I have, in this case, starting right above this dot, I have a dot, 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 dot. So I used 4 dots. I'm going to twirl it so you can see I used 4 dots. All right, and go straight up to the edge. You can adjust the number of dots. Oops, I guess pointing my hand around over to the other side is not too brilliant of me. I apologize. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so right from the middle of those parentheses, I just used tip number 2 and did the 4 dots. So I'll let you guys work on that. Maybe I'll lift this up a little bit so you can see it a little more clearly. Yeah, there we go. I think that does it. And then after that, I just used tip 3 with color E, which is the light. Oh, no, sorry. Turned it upside down. Color B, and put the blue dot on either side. Okay, whoops, come back in view, Jack. So we have these 4 up here, and then tip number 3 with a dot on each side. Now, for what it's worth, what that does is finish up the main part of the design. And sets us up to be ready to do some double dotting. All right, so what we're going to do for the double dotting, I'm going to come back and start on this one so that you can see me do it. And we're going to start with those sideways diamonds that were, let me use my pointer, that are back in here. Hey, Gina. So we're going to do these sideways diamonds that are way back down here. All right, and we're just going to use tip number 2 and color B. And on these, what we're going to do is we're going to put the dot not in the middle, okay, but on the best way I can describe it is on the inside. So this is what I mean. We're going to put the dot toward the center of the design. So on the edge, so it kind of looks like they're all looking at each other. They're all cross-eyed. So I'm putting on this one, I put it at the top. This one, I put it at the bottom. This one, I put it on the left. And this one, I put it on the right. Does that make sense? Any questions? Thank you. All right, so I'm going to do that on all of them. I don't usually re-dip on these because they're not using a lot of glaze on each one. You can if you want to. There's no right or wrong. Well, there can be. If you don't get enough glaze, then you should re-dip. I'm laughing because I went to dot and there was no glaze on it, and I'm like, well, okay, that's definitely a wrong. I take it back. There is a right and a wrong. The wrong is no glaze. But, of course, if you really can't handle the off-center thing, go ahead and center them. But this just kind of gives it a more cohesive look. It kind of pulls those 4 dots together with the double dot being kind of on the inside, if you will. Okay. Now the other thing you can do is go down into these drags, the color A drags right below it, and also use tip 2 and that same color and put a dot. Now this would be in the center of each one. When this gets fired, this will be very subtle. It's kind of one of the things that's kind of cool as a unifying element of the design, because the same color in the middle of this teal will fire and look differently than the color in the middle of what we just did, in the middle of that red, where it will jump out more. So it'll be the same color, but it will have a different effect. And that's somewhat really kind of pleasing to the eye. Okay. And then we're going to go up to our bigger, darker red drags. And use tip number 3 and color number F, which is the yellow, and just dot really lightly here because your number 3 tip can carry a lot of punch, so, and you don't want it to go like wild. So I just barely touch it down. I also like, what I like about doing them with tip 3 is that I can do all 3 easily on one dip. Remember the lazy thing? Okay. And these are pretty much centered. Okay. Then we're going to go to the parentheses that are directly above that, the ones that we did in color D, okay? We're just going to add a color E dot, but that's got to be a number 2 size dot because those are smaller. And that's centered in the big part of the parentheses. Okay. And I'm going to use that same color and tip and put a dot in the middle of each of these big yellows. Just the ones on the end. Now if your paint, your glaze, excuse me, is still a little bit wet, you don't have to dot very hard. You just want to really touch it and your glaze will just pull the glaze off your tool. Right into the center there. Okay? Then I'm going to use color C and also the same tip, and I'm going to put a dot in the middle of these drags, the color A drags on each side. So the teal drags that are on each side of the salmon straight up and down. If your drags are bigger than mine, then you could always use a larger tip if you want to. Or if they're smaller, I know you know where this is going, you can use a smaller tip. But 2 is pretty small. It's hard to get a smaller dot than a 2. And you don't want to press too hard right now for these dots because the glaze underneath is still wet and it will just kind of pull it away. And that's kind of not the look that we're going for, in case you weren't sure. And the last thing that not the last thing, I always say that and it's so not true. I have 3 more double dots I did on this one. I'm going to use, on those large number 8 dots on the side, pointing over here, I'm going to use tip number 4 and color E. And on this one, I did them toward the inside again. Okay, not in the middle. And again, you know what I'm going to tell you. Do what you do you. I just do it because I feel like it pulls that design element in to its neighbors, which is what I want. But if you don't like off center, that's fine, because you're the one who has to live with it. So around each one, I'm just kind of doing it on the edge. I guess you can see that. Okay. And I'm going to use the same color, but tip number 2. And I'm going to put a little dot on each of the parentheses above the yellow arches. I feel like I'm shilling for McDonald's, but okay, so above the yellow arches on those parentheses, I'm using a tip 2 color E dot. If you don't want to do this, you certainly do not have to. I am, as you probably know from doing these with me, I'm kind of a fan of double dotting for most of my designs because I just like the little bit of complexity that it lends to it. And now, I swear, the last double dotting we're going to be doing is on this diamond, the color A teal diamond. That's well, it's right here where I'm talking about. It's in between what we just did. And this one I also do on the inside. I'm using color B, and I'm using tip number 3. Okay, because I want this to show a little bit. So I'm going to do lightly 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And again, these might be still a little bit wet, so just let the paint drip down onto it so you don't overdo it or you don't scrape anything up. Both of those are not what we're after. It's okay if the dots are large and take up a good deal of the circle. That's not really the problem. That'll look really cool. But I think the bigger problem is the not scraping up paint. So I'm doing these on the insides, just like I showed you before. They're all kind of going toward each other. And that, ta-da, is the complete design. And you know what's so funny is this one's kind of went along, this is a long design, because I went along at a kind of nice clip there, pretty quick clip, and it still took a bit of time, but I'm just going to quickly show you while you're finishing up the 2 weeks from tonight. So this is called Pinwheel. I guess it's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's sort of obvious. I'm going to move this out so that you can see it better. I have to put it on an angle, lift up my camera a little bit, hope it doesn't make you dizzy. Whoops, that makes you dizzy when I hit it. I get that. All right, now I got to fix it. Now I've made a terrible mess. Whoops, and you're crooked and everything. My goodness. Yes, this is the whole professional show. Try not to get too used to it. Haha. All right, I'll hold the camera and I'll hold the plate. So this is the one in blue and purple, as you can kind of tell. Like you didn't really need my explanation. But I wanted to also just show it to you in a different color set, because this is what it looks like in the orange and the yellow. And I also can do it, well, you can do it in whatever colors you want, of course. I also have one that's just done in a variety of blues. And up until a week ago, I had one in greens highlighted with yellow, but I broke it. So that's the one I'm going to be doing when I teach this 2 weeks from tonight. So for tonight, we are done with the Pennsylvania Dutch. I look forward to seeing your plates when you bring them in. If you enjoyed this one and you think you might want to do it on the platter, you know, for summer, for a Christmas gift or whatever, wedding gift, birthday gift, as you can see, it looks great on a platter too. So guys, have a great rest of your day, and look forward to seeing you next week.